Richard Linklater's surrealist animated film Waking Life tries to look at and answer the question, what is the meaning of life? Throughout the film, we follow an unnamed protagonist who goes from having one existential conversation to the next. In this, we are introduced to many different ideas. We see different excerpts of life as this character discusses or listens to different people telling him what they believe life is truly about. In full honesty, there is no answer to this film. Quite frankly, the answer to this film is the meaning of life. However, this film definitely asks some questions. In this video, I want to break down these questions and explore them further to see what Richard Linklater was actually saying. This is a video where it's very important to have seen the movie before watching my breakdown of it, so if you have not seen Waking Life, by all means you should before continuing on here. Before we get to that, I want to address the purple elephant in the room, which is the style. This is a movie that looks absolutely absurd. It obviously looks animated, but there's an entirely real look to it as well. To put it simply, this movie was shot on a digital camera. From there, a group of animators went in frame by frame to give it a unique look. There's an article on Wired.com that I'll leave a link to in the description and on screen right now that looks at this further. But the reason that this movie looks this way is actually quite simple, to try and give it a surreal quality. This is a movie that should not be taken literally. Nothing that we see here is a reflection of reality. Instead, it exists as the dreams of our protagonist. We'll be exploring this a little bit later in the video, but the film's central idea is dreaming. And throughout most of the film, our character is dreaming. Again, a lot of this is up to interpretation, but this is how I view the film. So this movie is divided into two very different and distinctive parts. The first part looks at many different philosophies people believe in. To start off, after our protagonist is dropped off at the Austin airport, he is picked up by a man in a car that is shaped as a boat. I think that the minute that he steps into this boat, his reality is turned upside down. Before, we had an animation style that looks somewhat more realistic than animated, but after he sits in the car, the animation seems to take over. The driver begins to give him advice. To him, life is about making the most of what you are given.
You want to keep things on an even keel, I guess is what I'm saying. You want to go with the flow. The sea refuses no river.
When he is asked where he wants to be dropped off, the other passenger answers for him.
Tell you what, go up 3 more streets, take a right, go 2 more blocks, drop this guy off on the next corner.
He really has no idea where he is going, but wherever he ends up will provide him with new insights and a greater understanding of life. It just so happens that this person is the film's writer and director, Richard Linklater, who starts our journey. From there, our protagonist talks to or listens to different professors, screenwriters, chemists, and lunatics, all trying to figure out what the meaning of life is. To the prison inmate, the only reason to live is to punish the people who are responsible for locking him up.
Oh, you're gonna pay for what you did to me.
According to this man, the government has stripped people of their freedom, so he tries to spread this message by lighting himself on fire. However, nobody stops to listen or even pay attention to him. These conversations go on until the protagonist realizes that he has been dreaming. From there, we focus on trying to understand and control what his dreams are.
You know, they say that dreams are real only as long as they last. Couldn't you say the same thing about life?
He talks to this man about the unlimited potential that dreaming can have, how you can do anything besides turn on the lights and check the time. From this point on in the film, the attention shifts away from different philosophies and on to dreams. However, dreams were brought up earlier in the film, and I would think it's important to look at what these said earlier. During the conversation that Jesse and Celine, the two main characters of Richard Linklater's Before series, had, they discussed the possibility that all life is simply a dream. This seems to make sense in context to the film. From minute one, this is obviously a world very different from our own. In addition, it has many dreamlike characteristics. We see characters showing up to have conversations. Everything is or appears to be totally random. This works with the same way that dreams work. Moreover, his dreams never harken back to his previous life experiences. He returns from a trip without any explanation of where he has been, he just exists. This film opens up with a clip of 2 children playing a game on a cootie catcher. But still, even this turns surreal as the boy, very possibly our protagonist as a child, floats away but holds on to the car, before waking up on the train showing that this was all a dream. So the message of this film is that all life is at least in part a dream. People never know when they're dreaming or when they're awake. They never stop to think, am I dreaming? However, the real question comes in when we think about, what does Richard Linklater think about this? Towards the end of the film, he meets again with Richard Linklater, this time where he discusses the different dreams. Linklater tells him that he had the same experiences, or at least similar ones.
Those are called false awakenings. I used to have those all the time.
I'd like to point out this is Richard Linklater writing about, at least to a degree, his own personal experiences. Obviously not all of this happened, but it is what influenced it. Clearly this is a very personal film by Linklater. He references his past films, features his daughter, and describes a life-changing moment. But I truly don't believe that Richard Linklater's life philosophy is that he thinks all life is a dream. And I'd like to focus in on one moment that happened earlier in the film when filmmaker Kaveh Zahidi describes the difference between film and reality.
Where like you take these, books or stories, and then you and then you have the script, and you try to find somebody who sort of fits the thing, but it's ridiculous because it shouldn't be based on the script, it should be based on the person, or the thing.
To him, the best films are those that capture reality. Those are a spontaneous and honest reaction of the actors.
It's about that guy at that moment in that space.
That is when film is true. However, this film is far from that. It was obviously written out and is very clearly heavily edited, and by no means a reflection of life. I think Linklater included this segment to show in part that this isn't what he believes life is truly about, but instead a way to explore moments that have had an important impact on him. As for my interpretation, I think that the protagonist is actually Richard Linklater, or at least a younger version or a different version of him, wondering what the meaning of life is. The ultimate message of this film is to not let the burden of life bear you down. The film's opening and closing scenes are very similar. At the beginning, we see the protagonist as a child when he's holding on to the car and does not want to let go of reality. However, it ends with him letting go of the car and really accepting life. Once he does that, he's able to truly get the most out of life and is able to wake up from the stream and really experience life. Thank you very much for watching. This was actually a pretty tough movie to talk about because so much is subjective and up to interpretation. At the same time, I really do love this movie. I'm glad I got to voice my thoughts on it. Anyway, that's what I think about it. Now I want to hear what you think down in the comments below, so make sure you drop a comment and tell me what you thought about it. Next week we are going to be looking at Back to the Future. It's far and away one of my favorite movies out there. I'm going to leave a link to that video on the right of the screen, and on the left is my last video in which we discussed Fritz Lang's M. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.